It was their wedding anniversary, a grand celebration, held at a luxury hotel in Accra. The lights sparkled, guests clinked glasses, laughter filled the air. Everyone was dressed in expensive clothes, and all eyes turned when Kwame, the charming CEO, stepped in with his wife, Ndali. But instead of admiration, murmurs began. Ndali was dressed simply, a plain, modest dress and no makeup. No jewelry, no designer heels. Just her natural beauty and a quiet smile. Kwame looked at her with disgust, then looked around at the crowd. "This," he said loudly, pointing at her, "this is what I come home to. A wife should shine, not embarrass." Some guests gasped. Others laughed nervously. Luyanda, the stylish socialite always close to Kwame, smirked and sipped her champagne. Ndali didn't respond. She just smiled, a soft, painful smile that trembled at the corners. Her eyes glistened, but no tears fell. She stood there with quiet dignity, surrounded by people who judged her, laughed at her, and watched her husband humiliate her like a joke. Kwame kept ranting, saying she was too plain for a man like me. The room buzzed with whispers, but Ndali said nothing. She simply looked at him, not with anger, but with something deeper, a goodbye. Ndali left the party quietly that night. No drama, no shouting, no tears. While the world laughed at her behind her back, she quietly stepped into the waiting black car outside, her driver already holding the door open. They drove away from the lights and noise of the city. For hours, the road curved through tall trees and sleepy villages. Then, they entered a private estate so large, it could swallow a whole town. A golden gate opened by itself as the car approached. Security guards bowed their heads. Staff lined up outside the grand white mansion with torches in hand, waiting for her like royalty returning home. "Welcome back, madam," the head butler said with a deep bow. Ndali walked in slowly, her dress still simple, her face still bare. But in this place, she didn't need to prove anything. She was home. The marble floors gleamed beneath her feet. Chandeliers hung like clouds from the ceiling. Paintings of her ancestors, kings, queens, warriors, lined the walls. This was her real life. Ndali wasn't just anyone. She was the only daughter of the late Chief Nana Obadele, the billionaire who built West Africa's biggest cocoa and gold empire. Everything he owned now belonged to her. Mines, plantations, real estate, across continents. But no one knew. She had hidden it all behind a quiet smile and simple life. Because Ndali didn't want to be loved for her wealth. She wanted real love. The kind that saw her heart, not her bank account. That's why, when she met Kwame 3 years ago, she never told him the truth. She lived in a modest apartment, dressed like an ordinary girl, cooked her own meals. She wanted to see if Kwame would love her without the glitz and glam, and in the beginning, she thought he did. But the anniversary party proved otherwise. He mocked her in public, called her embarrassing, compared her to other women dressed in diamonds, laughed as strangers whispered about her, and worst of all, he didn't even notice the pain in her eyes. He failed. Ndali stood on her mansion balcony now, looking out over the moonlit gardens, the sound of water flowing gently in the distance. Her heart was quiet, but not cold. She didn't hate Kwame. She just felt sad. Sad that the man she gave her whole heart to only valued her for how she looked, not who she was. Downstairs, her assistants prepared reports. Business meetings were already scheduled. Her charity team awaited instructions for a new donation to a girls' school. Her empire was moving forward, with or without him. In that moment, she made a promise to herself. She would never again shrink herself for a man who couldn't see her worth. And as the wind brushed her hair softly, Ndali whispered to the stars, "He thought I was small, but I was the miracle he prayed for." Days after the anniversary party, Kwame acted like nothing happened. In fact, he felt proud. To him, putting Ndali in her place was something she deserved. He started spending more time with Luyanda, the same flashy woman who laughed the loudest when he insulted Ndali. Luyanda was everything Ndali wasn't, at least on the surface. Loud, dressed head to toe in designer brands, always in makeup, always snapping selfies. She lived online, and her followers adored her for her boldness and fashion sense. Kwame, hungry for attention and praise, was completely taken in. Soon, the two were seen everywhere together. Fancy restaurants, fashion shows, beach resorts. Paparazzi snapped photos of them holding hands. laughing loudly. It didn't take long for rumors to spread. Kwame's moving on. One evening, Luyanda posted a photo on Instagram that went viral within hours. In the picture, she wore a diamond crown and a glittering dress with a caption that read, "Queens wear diamonds, not dust." Everyone knew who she was talking about. The comments exploded. "Shots fired at Ndali. She said what needed to be said. Kwame upgraded." Kwame didn't deny it. In fact, he liked the post. Then he commented, "Real queens know their worth. I'm done with villagers." That was it. The world saw his true face. Friends who once respected him raised their eyebrows in silence. Business partners started to whisper about his character. But Kwame didn't care. He was too drunk on Luyanda's praise, too proud of his shiny new queen. What he didn't see was the difference between gold paint and real gold. Ndali, quiet and unseen, watched it all unfold. She didn't respond. She didn't post. She didn't cry. Her silence spoke louder than anything, because deep down she knew. You don't argue with people who can't see your value. You walk away and let time speak for you. Meanwhile, Kwame continued his affair publicly, calling Ndali old-fashioned and too plain. He even told a friend at the club, "She was holding me back. Look at me now." But what he didn't realize was that while he chased sparkles, he had thrown away a diamond. Luyanda loved attention, not commitment. She loved luxury, not loyalty. And Kwame, caught in her web, was too blind to see it. People started noticing how different things felt, how cold Kwame's smile looked now, how his eyes seemed emptier. He laughed louder, but somehow seemed lonelier. He posted more, but there was a desperation in it. He had betrayed the woman who gave him love, stability, and peace, for someone who gave him likes, parties, and shallow praise. But the worst part, he still thought he had won, while the real queen, the one he called a villager, was quietly preparing the storm that would change everything. It happened quietly. No drama, no shouting, no tears. One morning, Kwame woke up and Ndali was simply gone. No bags packed in front of the door, no calls, no messages, just a note left on the bed beside his phone, handwritten, neat, calm, like her. He picked it up and read the words slowly. "You mocked your miracle. Don't beg when it's gone." Kwame stared at it, then burst out laughing. "Good riddance," he muttered, tossing the note onto the nightstand. He didn't even pause to think about what it meant. In his mind, Ndali was a nobody who finally realized she didn't belong in his world. He imagined her sulking in some village, maybe crying to her mother. To him, she was just a weak woman who couldn't handle the truth. He called Luyanda that same morning and told her. She finally left. Freedom tastes sweet. Ndali didn't take much with her, just a small suitcase, a journal, a few quiet memories. She didn't even alert the house help. They thought she'd gone to visit a friend, but Ndali wasn't coming back. Her heart was already gone long before her footsteps followed. She had given that man everything: love, loyalty, patience. She stood by him when he had nothing. She fed him when he was broke. She prayed with him, celebrated his first promotion, smiled at his every win. And yet, the moment he got comfortable, he used her like a doormat. She didn't leave because of Luyanda. She left because Kwame made it clear she was never enough for him. Not beautiful enough, not loud enough, not modern enough, not shiny enough, but most of all, not seen. And so she walked away, not because she was weak, but because she had finally remembered who she was. For the next few days, Kwame barely noticed her absence. He was too busy flaunting his new relationship, enjoying the fake praise, posting online with Luyanda. "Level up season," he captioned one photo. He didn't realize something strange was starting to happen behind the scenes. A few phone calls were going unanswered. A business deal that was supposed to go through suddenly got delayed. One of his biggest investors backed out without warning. Still, Kwame didn't connect the dots. He thought Ndali was out of his life for good. And good riddance, right? He had no idea he had just lost the one person holding his entire world together. The house suddenly felt emptier, quiet. No soft humming in the kitchen. No gentle voice asking how his day went. No warmth, no peace. Just silence. But Kwame, still full of pride, told himself she'd come crawling back, one day. When she realized how much she needed him, he had no idea. She was never the one who needed him. She was the blessing. And now, she was gone. At first, it started with little things. a late payment from a supplier, a meeting that got cancelled without explanation. Then came a call from one of Kwame's biggest investors. Cold, distant. "We're pulling out of the project," the man said simply. No reason given. Just like that, $1 million deal vanished. Kwame was confused, but brushed it off. People change their minds. No big deal, he told himself. But over the next few weeks, more cracks started showing. Partners who once praised him stopped returning his calls. His company's social media lost followers. Clients slowly backed away. Then came the biggest blow. A government agency suspended his business license, citing undisclosed concerns. Kwame's jaw dropped as he read the official letter. His heart pounded. This couldn't be real. His empire, the company he bragged about every day, was falling apart in slow motion. He called his lawyer, called his financial advisor, called every name in his phone book. No one could fix it. Everyone had the same answer. "Sorry, our hands are tied." What Kwame didn't know, what he never even imagined, was that the silent force behind his entire success had been Ndali. While he was out there pretending to be the self-made CEO, it was Ndali, behind the scenes, who quietly made sure his path was smooth. Her family connections had brought in his earliest investors. Her influence had helped get his licenses approved quickly. Her quiet donations and behind-the-curtain favors had opened doors he never even knew were closed. He thought it was luck. He thought it was his charm. But it was always her, the woman he mocked, humiliated, and called a villager. When she left, she didn't say a word. She didn't take revenge. She didn't post online or tell anyone what she had done for him. She simply stepped back and let life speak. Without her silent protection, Kwame's world crumbled like dry leaves in the wind. His office was quiet now. Empty chairs, phones that didn't ring, bills piling up. His assistant quit. Even the security guard at the gate stopped showing up. And still, Kwame didn't fully understand what was happening. How could this all be falling apart? He whispered to himself, head in his hands. Because the truth was too painful to even guess. He had thrown away the one person who carried him, who covered him with grace, who believed in him more than he believed in himself. Now karma had arrived. Not loud, not violent, just slow, quiet, and undeniable, the same way she left. And as his world collapsed around him, Kwame realized too late. The woman he insulted in public was the reason he ever stood tall in the first place. One morning, the whole internet woke up to her name, Ndali Obadele. It started with a single headline: "Mysterious billionaire donates $15 million to educate rural girls in Africa." People were curious. Who was this mystery woman? When reporters dug deeper, jaws dropped. It wasn't some loud celebrity or flashy business tycoon. It was Ndali, the quiet, humble woman many remembered only as the wife of Kwame, the businessman who used to show off his new girlfriend online. But now, the world saw her differently. Pictures of her surfaced, not in diamonds, not in designer heels, but standing barefoot in a remote village, handing out school supplies, hugging little girls, smiling softly as children ran into newly built classrooms funded by her foundation. And then the full story broke. She was no ordinary woman. Ndali Obadele was the sole heir to a billion-dollar cocoa and gold empire, one of the richest women in Africa, and no one knew. She had chosen to live simply, to marry for love, to walk in silence. She had hidden her wealth, her power, her influence. She gave it all up, just to see if someone could love her for who she was. And the man she gave her heart to called her a villager. Social media exploded. People were shocked, angry, emotional. She's a queen. She lived humbly with a man who mocked her. God hid her crown from fools. Photos of her went viral. Old clips of the anniversary party resurfaced, with comments flooding in. He humiliated a queen in front of peasants. She's the real royalty, not the woman dripping in fake designer. Soon she was trending across Africa, not for drama, not for fashion, but for her grace. They called her Africa's silent lioness, a woman who roared not with noise, but with action, a woman who didn't need to prove her worth, because her work spoke louder than anything. Reporters begged for interviews. Magazines offered her front covers. Brands offered millions to be associated with her name. She politely declined most. Instead, she used the spotlight to speak about girls who had no voice, about education, about dignity, about knowing your worth even when others don't see it. While Kwame sat in silence in his now empty house, watching everything unfold on his phone, the world finally saw who Ndali truly was. Not just a woman scorned, but a woman of strength, of vision, of heart. The same woman he once laughed at, now praised by presidents, followed by millions, admired by the very world he was trying to impress. Ndali didn't clap back. She didn't drag anyone online. She just kept giving, kept building schools, kept shining in her quiet way, because true queens don't need to shout. They rise, and the world rises with them. Kwame never thought the day would come. The man who once drove luxury cars and dined at five-star restaurants was now sleeping on a bench outside a closed store. His phone was dead. His wallet was empty. The same friends who once called him boss now ignored his calls. Luyanda, gone. The moment his bank account dropped, so did her love. His suits were wrinkled. His shoes were dusty. He hadn't eaten in 2 days. Pride had kept him going for a while, but now even that was gone. All he had left was regret, and the haunting face of the woman he had once called a villager, Ndali. Her name felt like both a wound and a prayer. One morning, weak and broken, Kwame walked barefoot for miles until he reached the golden gates of the mansion he once didn't know existed. The sun was hot, his lips were dry, his heart pounded with shame, but he had nowhere else to go. 2 gatekeepers in clean uniforms stood tall. "I need to see her," Kwame said, voice shaking. "Please, I just want to talk. I didn't know who she really was." The guards didn't move. One of them picked up a phone and made a call. A moment later, he returned and gave a simple reply. "Madam said no entry for those who mocked God's blessing." Kwame froze. He felt the words hit him like a slap. His knees buckled. He fell to the ground. "Please," he whispered, tears finally breaking free. "Tell her I'm sorry. I didn't know. I was stupid. I lost everything." But there was no reply. No one came out. No dramatic scene. Just the sound of birds in the trees and his own quiet sobbing. Ndali had heard his cry, but she didn't come out, because some wounds need time, and some lessons must be lived, not explained. Inside the mansion, she stood by the window. She saw him, broken, kneeling, begging, and her heart ached, but not with love, with sorrow, because once she would have given him the world. She did, and he crushed it in his hands. She prayed silently, "God, heal him, teach him, but let him find his own way now." Kwame stayed at the gate for hours, hoping she'd change her mind, hoping she'd forgive like she always used to. But this time there was no soft smile, no kind hug, no second chance, just silence and a closed gate. He walked away slowly, head down, soul heavy. Now he truly understood. He hadn't just lost a wife, he had lost a blessing, a miracle sent by God, and he mocked her until she disappeared. And when a man mocks God's blessing, sometimes there's no open door left to walk through. Kwame was already losing everything, his business, his home, his reputation. But through it all, he still clung to one thing, Luyanda. She was loud, flashy, and dramatic, but at least she was still there, or so he thought. One afternoon, hungry and desperate, he showed up at her apartment. His designer shirt was torn, his shoes were dusty, and his face looked tired. Nothing like the confident man she once flaunted on Instagram. Luyanda opened the door, saw his condition, and didn't even try to hide the disgust on her face. "What happened to you?" she asked, stepping back like he smelled. Kwame tried to smile. "Things are just rough right now, but I'll bounce back. I just need time. Can I come in?" She crossed her arms. "Time? You mean money?" No, he said quickly. "I just need a place to stay for a few days, just until I figure things out." Luyanda laughed, not a sweet laugh, cold and sharp. "You think I'm running a shelter?" she said. "I don't do broke men." Kwame blinked, confused. "But you said you loved me." She rolled her eyes. "I loved the lifestyle, the trips, the gifts, the attention. Now you can't even afford a meal." His voice cracked. "Luyanda, please. I have no one left." She stepped back inside and grabbed a small purse, tossed it at him like trash. "Here," she said. "That should get you food. But don't come back. You're not my type anymore." The door slammed. Kwame stood there for a moment, holding the little purse like it was a lifeline. Then he looked up at the sky and let out a sound that wasn't quite a cry, wasn't quite a scream, just pain, real pain, the kind that comes when everything fake around you finally fades, and you're left with the truth. He sank to the ground, tears pouring down his face. This was the same woman he had chosen over Ndali, The same woman he had defended, protected, praised. The one he had called a real queen. And now she couldn't even look at him. The streets felt colder. The world felt darker. And for the first time, Kwame wasn't angry. He was just broken, empty, like a man who'd woken up from a long dream, only to realize he had burned his entire life for a spotlight that lasted 10 minutes. He thought of Ndali again, her soft voice, her warm meals, her prayers, her loyalty. She had loved him when he had nothing. Luyanda, she left the moment the credit cards stopped working. He put his head in his hands and sobbed like a child for everything he lost, for the woman he betrayed, for the home that was no longer his, for the silence that now followed him like a shadow. There were no more cameras, no fans, no applause, just Kwame, alone, and the echo of the door that had just closed on him forever. The nights felt longer now, the streets were loud, but inside Kwame's heart there was only silence. No one called, no one cared, no one asked if he had eaten. And as he lay curled on a worn-out bench, using his jacket as a blanket, the memories began to come like waves, strong, painful, and unstoppable. He closed his eyes, and suddenly, he was back in the tiny apartment where he and Ndali first lived. He remembered coming home late one night, tired, frustrated, angry at the world. And there she was, waiting for him, with hot food, warm water, and a smile. "I made your favorite," she had said softly. He didn't even thank her that day. He barely looked at her. Tears welled up in his eyes. He remembered how she always believed in him, how she encouraged him to chase his dreams when even he doubted himself, how she sold her jewelry once, quietly, just to help him start his business. He didn't know at first. When he found out, she simply smiled and said, "I believe in you. That's more valuable than gold." He had forgotten that version of her. He remembered the nights she stayed up when he was sick, pressing wet cloths to his forehead, whispering prayers, refusing to sleep until he felt better. And how did he repay her? He mocked her, called her plain, made fun of her clothes, compared her to women who only loved him for what he had, not who he was. He remembered the pain in her eyes the night he humiliated her in front of everyone. She didn't shout, she didn't fight back, she just smiled, that small, sad smile, the one that looked like goodbye. And now he understood. It was goodbye. He sat up slowly, wiping his face with the back of his hand. His throat burned, his chest felt heavy. "I had everything," he whispered into the empty night, "and I threw it away." There was no pride left in him now, no ego, just a broken man, haunted by the memory of the one person who truly loved him. He remembered the way she looked at him, not like a rich man, not like a CEO, but like someone worthy, someone real. And that look, no one else ever gave him that again. He thought money would make him happy. He thought a flashier woman would make him feel powerful. But now, sitting in the dirt with nothing to his name, he realized what he had truly lost. Not just a wife, he lost a home, a friend, a prayer warrior, a helper, a woman who would have died for him, and worst of all, there was no way back. Ndali had moved on. Her world was bigger now, stronger. She had risen above the pain. And he was stuck in the past, holding memories that no longer belonged to him. A king once crowned by love. Now Kwame sat alone under the streetlight, head in his hands, tears quietly falling down his face. The night was cold, but the memories burning inside him felt even colder. He couldn't stop thinking about her, Ndali. Every time he closed his eyes, her face came back. Not the sad face from the night he insulted her, but the one filled with love. The one that used to light up when she saw him walk through the door. He remembered how she used to wait up for him, no matter how late, how she would warm his food, place her hand gently on his shoulder, and ask, "Are you okay?" He remembered the way she'd pray for him before big meetings, how she believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. She had fed him with her own hands when he was sick. She had stayed by his side when he was broke. She gave everything, her heart, her time, her dreams, just to see him grow. And how did he repay her? He mocked her, called her a villager, threw her love away like it meant nothing. Now, there was no going back. He had lost her. Not just her presence, but her love, her loyalty, her protection. The one person who saw his soul and chose to love him anyway was gone. And now, the same man who once had everything sat with nothing. Just broken memories, heavy regret, and an emptiness he couldn't escape. Too late, he realized. She was never the one who didn't shine. He was just too blind to see her light.